Hello, hello. Thank you for coming back to my channel. My name is Jen the Bookworm, and I hope that you are having a great day. If this is your first time coming to check me out, I really appreciate the support. And if you've been here before, I appreciate the continued support. So today I'm trying to bring you a quick video, my May wrap up, and I was going to do a May wrap up and June TBR and a haul all in one video, and I thought maybe it would be better if I did 3 smaller videos rather than one huge video that can't pick a thesis. So today I'm bringing you my May wrap up. I read 8 books in May because I'm awesome like that. So I know 8 books isn't a lot for some people, but it's a lot for me. I decided after April that May was going to be mood reading month. It was going to be mood reading and binge reading, and I did those things. And I feel really good about what I did in May. I was a little, I don't want to say burnt out from April. It was only, I think I read 6 books in April or something like that. It wasn't that many books, but it was just the intensity of reading and the competition of the readathon that I was in. It made me want to be a little more relaxed with what I was able to choose in May. Just read to my mood, which I did do that. So in May, I read The Titan's Curse, which is the Percy Jackson 3rd book in the series by Rick Riordan. I read that because my daughter had finished it and she wanted me to catch up with her. And so, so I did that. It was very good. It was, you know, being the 3rd in the series, I was a little concerned that the quality was going to take a dive or something, but it did not. It's still a very good book, very good series so far. We are pausing on Percy Jackson. She got some other books for Christmas and stuff, and I want her to read other things so she doesn't get burnt out on Percy Jackson. She can come back to it later. I read and finished the Mistborn Trilogy. I'd already read the first one last December, but I read Well of Ascension and The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson this month. It was nice to be able to read them back to back. That was kind of the point of the mood reading May and the binge reading, was that I could finish up the series. I could just read them back to back. I didn't have to read one in May and then one in June and to spread it out. So I read those, and I did a reaction video on the Well of Ascension, and I believe that I added a kind of a bit of a what I thought about The Hero of Ages in my May mid-month check-in. So I'm not going to go over it too much here, but I just want to say I super enjoyed that trilogy. That when I got done with The Hero of Ages, I really just kind of wanted to pick up Mistborn. I almost did pick up the first Mistborn book, the Final Empire, and just reread it, knowing what I know at the end of the trilogy. I just kind of wanted to go back to the beginning to I don't know, to experience it again. It's sort of like when I watched The Sixth Sense. It was exciting to go back and rewatch it, knowing what I knew by the end of the movie. So I kind of wanted to do that. I didn't end up doing that. Maybe I'll reread these on a reread with other people at some point. But right now, there's so many books to get through. I don't want to waste my time rereading a whole lot. So I also I got to do a buddy read with Alex from Tall Guy Reads. I'll have his information down below. And I got to read with him, and also Baron from the Grimoire Discord. Although Baron had to check out, it was just, there are other things going on. So it was just me and Alex for most of it. And so I read Legion by William Peter Blatty, and I thought it was okay. I thought it was good, and I gave it like 3 stars. But there were parts in it where it was really meandering. There were parts in it where I feel like the main character could not answer a straight question with a straight answer to save his life. And honestly, they're kind of painting him as he's a detective, and they're kind of painting him as somebody who he's getting older, and people are worrying a little bit that his mind is slipping. And I don't wonder why after having read it. I mean, he can't answer a question straight, and he will just sit there and ponder to himself the meaning of life, religion, science. I mean, he goes off on just a variety of things about religion and stuff, which I think would have been more interesting spread out in a longer book. The actual murder mystery that we were going through only comprised a very small amount of the book. It could have been a novella, and it would have been a good novella if they cut out a lot of the religious stuff at the beginning. And The Exorcist had a lot of religious stuff in it too, but it was so good. It was so good. It was interwoven, and it made sense. I mean, one of the main characters is a priest, so it makes sense that he is having, crises of faith, and he is saying and thinking a lot about and pondering a lot about religion. That makes sense in his character. And it always seemed to fit within what was going on in the story. In this case, it did not feel like it fit within what was going on in the story. It felt like he went off on a tangent. It felt like I was reading somebody. I felt like I was reading a character whose mind is starting to go, whose mind is just wandering aimlessly, and that made it more ponderous and less fun to read. But once we got to the actual murder mystery part of it, it was very quick. It was a good read, and I finished it all up. The second half of the book I finished like this. The first half of the book I was just dragging. So after that, I went on a Dresden binge. And I am not even sorry. I read Turncoat, which is the 11th book. And of course, these are all by Jim Butcher. I read Changes, which is the 12th book. And the book that everyone, it's like the book that people think is like the pinnacle of the series, or at least up to this point. Everyone loves the Changes. Then I read Side Jobs, which is a short story collection, and they call it, 12.5. The reason I read it, and I'm glad I did actually, the reason I read it was because there was a short story that took place in between Changes and Ghost Story, which is the 13th book in the series. And so I kind of wanted to... Changes was really good. It was so good that if there was more, I wanted to read that. So I went through and I read Side Jobs, and I almost skipped ahead. I almost just said, and all of the stories were good. All the little short stories were good, but I was just impatient to get to the one that I wanted. But I'm glad I didn't do that, because some of the stories gave context. And some of the stories, like one of the stories in there was kind of how he met Karen Murphy. And in Ghost Story, there were references to some of the things that I learned in Side Jobs. So I'm glad that I read it. Then I read Ghost Story. So those are the 8 books that I read. Now, I really enjoyed Turncoat. I really enjoyed Changes, really, really. I gave it a 4.5, which was kind of funny because my friend Kyle from Kyle Reads Reading with Kyle. I forgot his channel name. Sorry, Kyle. I will link it below. But he was like, does God himself have to write the foreword before you'll give it a 5-star? Which made me laugh. But it was, the only reason I gave it a 4.5 and not a 5-star is because there were a couple of things, and I'll try to mention them without spoiling, but like the gem for his medallion was one of them. But there were just a couple of things that felt like Jim Butcher really needed Dresden to be able to do a couple things or know a couple things that he didn't know before, so they just kind of gave it to him. It just felt like it was convenient in a couple of places. Like he conveniently gets this information and conveniently gets that thing that he needs, you know. So it wasn't often. It didn't destroy my enjoyment of the book or anything like that. It wasn't dramatic. It was just a couple of times when it felt like, I don't know if I'd call that plot armor, but or basically the Jim Butcher was like, I need Dresden to know this, so now he knows this. So that's the reason for the docking of a half a star. But then I heard some really good, you know, like the Ghost Story was really beautiful. Ghost Story was a little heartbreaking. There were some parts in there just kind of, and I don't want to spoil it, and so I'm not going to say specifics, but there were some places in there, just the evolution of some of the characters, it was a little heartbreaking. But I am excited to move on to read more Dresden, but I'm going to give it a break for a little while because 4 books is quite a lot of Dresden all at once. So I think there's 17 books in the series. I keep forgetting how many. So, and I've read 13. So I've only got a few more before I'm finished. So I'll kind of pepper them in as I go. So that's what I read in May. And I am super happy with the progress I made. I'm super happy with how many books I read. I am really trying to read 100 books in this year. And according to Storygraph, I am perpetually 9 books behind my goal. So I was hoping that reading Dresden and reading so many of them would have caught me up a little bit, but no. Every time a new month pops over, that's a new chunk of books that I need to read. So I don't know if I'm going to achieve that goal or not, but I'm still working towards it. So we'll see. But I think Storygraph has said that at this point I've read like 35 books or 34 books or somewhere in that vicinity. I don't know, I read like 58 books last year after I joined BookTube. So from like July on through December of 2022. So I really thought I'd read more books in the beginning of the year. I don't know what's kind of gotten in my way. I don't think anything's gotten in my way. Off the top of my head, I have been doing consistently 5 books or more every month. So even when I'm reading Brandon Sanderson books, which tend to be kind of thick, I am still managing to read. I read 2 of them this month and I read 8 books. So I think I'm going in at a pretty good clip, and I'm pretty excited about that. And, but that was my May wrap up, and I will shoot over to another video to let you know what we're doing in June. But I hope that you enjoyed this wrap up. I hope if you have any interest in any of these books, or you've read them or you like them, I hope you leave me a comment down below. Let me know, what of these have you read, and where do you think I should go from here? Do you have some recommendations for me? I appreciate any conversation, any recommendations, anything that you want to say. Leave me a comment. If you haven't already, please consider liking this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't. It's free to do, and it really helps out my channel, and I'm really trying to get a push up to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. So if we can get that, and I'm still in the 80s, but I'm not sweating it, but if we can get more subscribers, I'd be happy to have more subscribers. So thank you very much, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.